What up, y'all?
This is Brittany.
I'm Mandisa.
And I'm Jamal.
And we are your hosts of...
We're your hosts of...
And we're the host of...
Living Millennial.
Living Millennial.
Living Millennial.
A podcast where you'll be hearing three different perspectives and emerging stories from three different millennials on everyday life and trending topics.
Hey y'all, you're listening to Living Millennial. We have Jamal with us in the house today.
Hey.
So we want to tell y'all about our connections of how we met and how Living Millennial came to be.
Yes. I actually think it's appropriate for the two of you, Jamal and Mandisa, to start.
Us?
Yeah, kick
Word.
it off.
So long ago.
So long ago. What year was that?
15. 2015.
Because I graduated in 2015. That was my second year of grad school.
And that was my first, the summer after my first, 2015.
Boom. We both were in grad school.
Yes.
Doing the Shakespeare Festival at the Old Globe Theater. And what show were we working on
We
there?
were on The Comedy of Errors, which became a musical.
It was like a musical, you know, 1920s New Orleans, right?
Yep,
Mardi Gras, which is
yep.
pretty great because I felt like so much flavor in that show and everything.
Yes, indeed.
I just have to say that grad school, we both were in grad school. I was at University of San Diego getting my MFA in acting. You were?
I was at UC San Diego getting my MFA in stage management.
Right, so I have to say that, like, grad school is like, after you're done with it, any actor who's gone to graduate training will understand that everything kind of, like, molds together into this huge experience, and, like, finding out, like, pinpoint experience, like, wait, when did that happen? What year was that? Da, 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 da. So we've decided that's when we met for sure. You were interning on the show,
sure.
right?
Yes. Everything I did for those 2.5, 3 years, I have to relate back to a show. Otherwise, I have no
I don't
idea
know where I was in the moment.
Yeah.
In the moment.
So that was that summer, and you had already done. That was your second show in Rep at the Globe that summer. And so I came on, and that was a stage management team of four, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And as per usual, although I was an intern, I was the only black person on the stage management team.
Yeah.
Which was a huge connection for us.
Before we even knew it.
Yeah.
Because I was the only person of any color in my graduate class, which is ridiculous.
Yes.
In 2015 to be the only black person in a graduate actor training class.
Right.
For classical theater. The perspective, when I was auditioning for the Old Globe, actually a lot of people were saying that, oh, good luck, they don't accept black people. That was like the word, that was the word on the street, and the general feeling of black and brown beings.
Word.
Across the board regionally.
Wow.
Like when I mentioned I was auditioning for the Old Globe, that was a perspective that came up, so I felt the need to mention that a lot. And for me, when I first saw you behind the table, I remember thinking, you know, of course I don't want to step on anyone's toes, people are working and things like that, and there's so much going on the first day, but I noticed you, because we all know this, no, maybe not everybody knows this, but in the world of theater, we don't see a lot of black stage managers.
Right.
Especially women stage managers of color. Like, so when you see that, when I saw that, it just made me go, whoa.
Hello.
You know?
Yeah.
So I wanted to know more about you immediately walking into the room.
Dope.
You know? Because I didn't have a lot of black people around me at all through graduate training.
I want to speak on that with my grad experience also briefly, because when I went to interview for the program at UC San Diego, it was a program of, I believe, 9 or 10 women, and they were all white. And I was coming from an HBCU in New Orleans, and I'm like, this is what I'm walking into next year? Okay. So thankfully, there was myself and my dear friend Cameron Jacobs, who we were the two... right.
Shout out to
We
you.
were the two black women of our class and of that entire... stage management cohort, which, I mean, honestly, if she hadn't been there, I don't know if I would have really stably made it out of that program. So being able to connect with the few amount of black people in theater spaces, which are predominantly white and oftentimes predominantly white male, was a huge thing for us, even though I didn't stay on for the entire run of the show, because as an intern, I was done as of opening night. But to have the moments that we did during the show, and just to be able to connect as Black people, and even if it's just a look across the room when someone says something or does something that you're like,
yeah. And it's interesting in graduate training, like, there's like this, I say unspoken, but it probably is spoken amongst Black people in the theater community. Like, when you're in graduate training, you're aware of the Black people who are getting their graduate degrees across the board, even via social media, because we're all interconnected. Like, the community is very large, but it's just that small when you're a person of color. And so you're on each other's radar. It's like, oh, Jamal, you were at USD, right? It's like, yeah. It's like, oh, man, you tape management too. And shout out to Cameron. We mentioned Cameron, but Cameron Jacobs, she is currently right now stage managing American Son on Broadway. So knocking down doors right now with Kerry Washington in that show. And like, so like, big shout out to Mandisa and Cameron, because I'm so glad you all had each other, because you all are knocking down doors and like operating these spaces where it's needed, like your faces and your voices are needed. And I'm so grateful as an actor to know that you all are operating these spaces and knocking down those doors, because like, listen, like, the community needs us still. They need our voices. They need us. It's very important.
And then for us to, we leave grad school, we're working, and then for us to be able to pull in other Black kids, not kids, but, you know, other Black adults into grad programs and be able to mentor people, even if they're not in grad programs, but, you know, having an intern or an understudy of a show who we can say, okay, come under my wing. I have been through this experience. I'm still going through my experiences as a working artist, but let me take you in and let's grow each other.
Yeah, and we help each other, because after we met, you know, my friend Keith Wallace, he was at UCSD getting his MFA in acting, and so Mandisa and I, before even meeting each other, had a lot of mutual friends because of graduate school. And so, like, that connection and that love instantly after we spoke was like, yes, I'm so glad you're here. Like, we would have looks in rehearsal about certain things. Like, things are going on. Positive and also, like, sideway things. Like, wait, hold on.
he just said what?
You know, they just said what? And so, like, just having that energy in the room where you don't have it on a consistent basis, just training at this level was really important. So, like, I'm so grateful for your existence. And, like, I've been in love with you on the sidelines forever. Like I am with all my Black and brown minority people, just in general in the arts. Like, our voices are so needed. So in the room, it's like, yes, let's do this. Like, we're doing this. We're here. And creating space for more people who look like us in diverse experiences and voices of people who look like us to be in the room. Like, we're fighting for that. And us being in the space and having the voices that we have, I think brings more of that knowledge to the white men in power who are ignorant and not recognizing that there's a lacking of us. Like, I made sure I used my voice in every way that I could while I was at the Old Globes. I'm like, yo, I need to recognize that there's an issue that I'm the only person of color in this graduate class. There's an issue when there's all white faces when I go to a fitting on the wall and you're asking me to cut my hair. And it's okay, but you haven't done research on my Black existence within this period. So we'll talk about my hair once I see my face on this research.
Heather.
Okay, King.
So that's how we met, and that's how we vibed out, and you know, and then it was the years later, like Beyonce concert or something like that.
There was also, I can't remember if it was the Beyonce concert before or after that concert, but there was one time where another mutual, Candace came in town, and we went out to dinner
at La Jolla. We were in La Jolla. We went out to go get some food, and I hadn't seen you in a while because again, being in grad school, you see each other and then you don't for like a long time because you're busy. And then, you know, all the Black people in graduate programs in different corners of the country are all together vibing. I believe Tessiana was there, maybe, or maybe she wasn't. Maybe she was there. Maybe we're just throwing her here. This is also what happens, too. You just start to throw every Black person you know
you were there
at the table. And it's like, you were there, but like, we don't really remember. But like, in spirit, you were there. And then that was a beautiful encounter again, too, because like every time we meet up, it's like, before we even started like recording this podcast today, it's like, just start vibing off of all the things that matter. There's like no time wasted, you know?
I love that.
You know, and no time lost, because like, again, we're keeping up with each other via the social media, and so like, we're always clued in on what Black artists in this theater world are up to, because it's that important. Like, you have to know what your people are doing in the industry, because there's a need for us.
And so We went to the dinner, or we went out to eat. I don't even know where that night started, but we got food. And then I think, yes, after the magical Beyonce concert, which I don't even think we sat by each other. I was with Kim and Keith.
No. We all had different tickets at different times, different corners of the auditorium.
And even, so, yeah.
We met up and kind of pregame together, which was great. And just the reunion and to piggyback on what you're saying, the reunion of it and to see lovely, dope people again, even after time has passed, it's like you just pick up on the same beat and it's like you run it. Nothing's changed. You continue to grow and share.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like most of my friendships are like that now. Like, we don't have to be, like, texting each other, calling each other all the time. We don't even have to be on social media liking each other's stuff all the time. But, like, whenever we get on the phone, whenever we see each other, it's like nothing has changed. No time has passed. We catch up, of course, but, like, it's just that. But the Beyonce concert, y'all.
I tell you, that was Lemonade,
right?
Lemonade.
Listen, that's where I come in. Beyonce connected all of us.
Yes.
Beyonce, I feel like she has that way. Like, she connects everybody some way, somehow.
She did that.
We can all relate to her, and then we all kind of relate to each other through relating to her. Who knows? But, that's kind of where I come in, because the girl's house that we were at before we even went to the concert was my roommate's friend's house, and we actually got tickets because of her. Well, I got tickets because
I did
of her.
too.
Yeah.
Amanda be hooking
Amanda,
us
shout out to Amanda.
Yes, with those tickets and the chance to concert too.
Yes.
Yep.
Listen, shout out to Amanda. She does her thing. Shout out to her and those work perks. But we met there, and I knew you were going to be there because so Jamal and I met through my roommate, Lania, or my roommate at the time, Lania. You guys already knew each other.
Yes,
from,
we knew each other
before.
from Philly. So I went to undergrad in Philadelphia. Lania and I did a show together. And shortly after we did a show together, a children's show together, she moved to San Diego. And then I ended up getting into grad school in San Diego. And so our link, you and I, is via my good friend Lania.
Yeah.
Wait, was Lania an actor? What did she do in the show?
She's an actor. She's an actor.
Word.
Yeah.
I did not know.
Yeah, she's an actor. Yeah.
She's like low key with it, but she's really good.
She's amazing.
She's really,
she's
really
just
good.
Getting back out there too.
Yeah. Because bills, but she's good. I've seen her work before, like on. I think she did like a commercial before. She's good. And I've seen her like practice and everything. She's really, really good. But that's how Jamal and I know each other, through Lania, and then we got the link to the Beyonce concert, and through Amanda. Again, shout out to Amanda. And then you were there as well, because Jamal was telling other folks to come.
Because Keith was there too, and Chaz, who all went to UCSD with you.
Yeah. So it was literally just a big reunion in some stranger's house. Because that was the first. I think that was the first time I had even met Amanda.
Really?
I think so. She had a really nice apartment too. But I think that was the first time I think that was the first time I had met her.
If y'all hear anything, I'm just pouring some wine,
Right. Yeah, we got some more drinky drinks going on. But then, and I do remember you, because you were with someone that I knew of through high school, because she hung out with the same people I hung out with.
Wait, are you thinking about Chaz?
Is it Chaz?
Yes,
from Chicago.
Yes. So that was another connection.
Yes.
Super random. I don't think folks know this, but like San Diego, as big as it is so small.
Yeah.
It's so, I cannot tell you how many people I've run into, like, you're not supposed to be in California, you're supposed to be in Chicago somewhere. But yeah, so and you came with her, right?
Yeah, I think.
Did y'all come together?
I want to say me, Chaz, Keith, Cam all rode there together.
Okay, cool. Because I remember talking to her, and you were standing right there. And you're just like,
yes.
I was like, I'm not from Chicago.
Right. You're like,
and that's where it gets a little muddy, too, because I had been in LA with Chaz at that point for a while, because she graduated, I think, a year before you got done.
Yep.
And so we had all come down from LA together. Word. And that's the beautiful thing too, like all our circles are interconnected in this beautiful, effortless way. Yeah.
Crazy.
So then maybe Chaz didn't get, she was there I don't know who
she was there
who knows? Listen, we all showed up. Basically at the end of the day, we all at this strange girl's house. Well, at least strange until we got there, right?
Strange because we hadn't been there yet.
Right.
She's not strange.
She's not strange, right. It wasn't strange because we didn't know what could happen. But yes, and really nice place. Like it was enough space for all of us to like get to know each other and make those connections. And yeah, it was just really dope. And then we went to the Bay concert and my life changed after that. Anybody else have a whole like
listen, we're not talking about Beyonce completely right now, but like I love Beyonce.
Yeah.
But I'm not in the Beehive.
That's okay. Are you
okay. In the Beehive?
No.
I wouldn't like go to I don't get defensive about her.
Okay,
like
good. Me
I like
either.
her music.
Yeah.
I support her as an artist, as a woman, as like, especially a black woman doing her thing, like get your money.
Absolutely. I say all of that to say that my life wasn't changed because listen, my life wasn't changed, but like also not being in the Beehive, I've seen Beyonce live 5 times. And so let me put my foot in my mouth.
Because that was my first time.
Like that was your first time. Yeah, so people have different experiences when their first time. Like I know what to expect. I know I'm getting a great show every time. But I had seen her multiple times before the Lemonade concert.
That was my first time seeing her live, and that was also like my first big concert. Like the only I think big artist or group I had seen live before was Maroon 5 at Jazz Fest in New Orleans. But I never really
Maroon 5 at Jazz Fest?
They were there, yeah.
I think they do have some jazzy moments, but it's still like random talking Maroon 5
it's PJ Morton who's the
I love PJ Morton.
Yeah, he's got his own album. It's
he's amazing.
He's from New Orleans, and I forget if he's the keyboardist or the drummer. I forget what he actually does.
He's amazing.
But
that makes sense.
I think that's the connect.
When we first began, that's my jam.
Yeah. They're like my day one group default to listen to since high school, maybe even middle school. Yeah,
I didn't get put on until much later, but that makes sense. But my life changed dramatically. I think I hit the gym so hard after that for such a long time.
She was
right.
She goes in.
She's inspirational as hell. Like she was super dope. But so that's where Mandisa and Jamal and I were actually in the same space at the same time. Long before this podcast even came to mind. But then Mandisa and I, this was months later, if not even a year later, right?
I think so.
We met because the same roommate, Lania, and I were looking for a third roommate to replace our roommate at the time, Luke. And she had talked to one of her friends at UCSD, and her friend put up roommate warranted signs or something like that. And Lania runs into the house and she's like, we have somebody who's gonna come over, we're gonna chat with her. She goes, but I think we know her. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? She goes, yeah, I think she was at the Beyonce concert. I think we know her. I'm like, I don't know what you mean. And I think we tried to find you on social media somewhere, but I'm not sure if it was successful. But then when you came to the house and you walked through, I was like, oh my God, it's her. But you were so quiet that night too at the Beyonce concert as well. So but it was an instant connection. I just remember us sitting on the couch at, we had 3 couches, but I can see me and Lania sitting on one of the couches, and then you were right across from us on the other couch. You just sitting there just smiling like you're smiling right now. Listen, you had all the right answers, girl. You were telling, we just made such a dope connection. And I already knew right then, I had my answer right then. So I was like, let me just get to know her a little bit more. Because if anything, I got a new friend.
Right. And
there's barely any black people in San Diego that I come across. So let's go get lines. So we walked down the street.
Did we go to Streetcar?
We went to Streetcar Merchant.
Oh, yes.
Shout out to Streetcar Merchant. This was before I gave up meat and dairy, but we went to streetcar.
Streetcar, like, you want to sponsor us, like,
right?
We give everybody shout outs.
Milk bar.
Don't get used to this until you get them.
Right, so you start throwing them fried pickles this way. We try to get some free fried pickles.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First, it's free. Next, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and many more. You can also make money from your podcast, y'all, with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast, all in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's Anchor, ANCHOR.FM, and get started.
But I mean, listen, ask not. I mean, have not if you ask not. But so we went to streetcar, and then I feel like that's when we really made a connection. I was like, no, this is like, she needs to be my friend.
We had fellowship.
We did. Yeah. I was like, she don't have a choice. Like, we're like, this is said. This is it. You were just awesome. And then I think we really connected on the fact that we weren't from the West Coast, right? Mm-hmm. We're not from San Diego, but we live here. We kind of connected on like some culture shocks we may have had every now and then, but we definitely connected on the level of being Black folks in majority white or majority non-Black spaces. Yeah. And yeah, I remember we definitely connected on that, and I was like, it's a wrap. Like, this girl is just too dope. And then after that, though, because remember, you're in your grad school life, and I think I had like 2 jobs at the time. So after that, it had
been some time, and then
a long time.
So I didn't move into the apartment. He ended up not moving out or something.
Yeah, he didn't move out. He didn't move out in time for you to move in.
Right. Which also
he extended his time of being in North Park with us. So we had to. It still breaks my heart. So we had to call you, and the call was definitely opposite of what we wanted. It was so we called you and was like, sorry, he's not moving out anymore, blah blah blah. And because remember we called you at the same time, like Lania and I were on the phone together.
Let me tell you how I know.
Okay.
Because when y'all found out that I knew you, Lania had messaged me like, oh my God, we love her so much, you know her, don't you? And I was like, yo, she's dope. That would be a dope house. Yes. She should move in. So I was heartbroken too. Although I don't live in the damn house with them or anything. I'm not a roommate. I don't frequent their space often. But I was heartbroken. Yeah. I knew it would be a great house with the 3 of you all's different perspectives and energies. Yeah. I knew that it would work.
And we felt that too, because like as soon as we got off the phone, because it was, as soon as we got off the phone, Lenina and I were together, we look at each other, we were like, this is like a breakup. Yeah. Like, we legitimately feel like we may have broken up with her or something. I'm like, but no, we have her number. We have her on social media. We're going to be friends. Yep. I'm determined. Like, it was a mood. Like, I think the rest of my day was kind of like shitty after that. I'm like, no.
It was also
we had plans.
2 other. I got this phone call as I was walking uphill to rehearsal, and I'm like, oh no. And this period of time also was during my thesis of grad school. I was trying to move during like the most difficult show, during the most difficult year of grad school. And so, of course, like, I was super bummed when I got that phone call. But I was also like, okay, well, maybe you have to move, so let's keep it pushing. So I eventually, found a place, which was fine and whatnot. But I just can't even imagine, like, all the fun and just, like, all the goodness that would have evolved from that.
But it all works out because, like, look where we are now.
That's very true, because eventually, after probably both of us trying to reach out, say, hey, you want to do this? Hey, you want to do that? And, like, either one of us would say, like, oh, sorry, can't do it. Eventually, we connected, and
The blood drive.
The blood drive.
The blood drive.
Random.
That to me. I know that's right. Y'all better be giving blood and everything.
Well, we had a motive.
We did. We weren't just being good people.
Yes, we had a motive.
We wanted to go to... So this was at the top of this summer, I believe. The top of this summer, where the annual San Diego County Fair that happens at the Del Mar Racetrack Fairgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they were having a promotion where you go and give blood and you get a free ticket to the county fair. I'm like,
oh, we're giving blood to get that free ticket.
We're gonna go to this. And so I think I hit you up and I was like, so
you got all the
Let me just say, morals are intact with the giving blood to get a free ticket.
Yeah.
Imagine that was to get Beyonce tickets.
Right?
They would have had all the blood
right?
for years.
Everybody would have been saved.
It's a good tactic.
Or not, actually.
So, we went to give blood, and then it turns out that we went to give blood on a Monday where the fair wasn't even open on Mondays.
So we had this whole day planned. We were going to get blood and go straight to the fair.
See what happens?
But instead, we gave blood. We were like, guess we're not doing that. So we went to, I think, Imperial Beach.
Yeah.
And just kind of ran it and talked. And maybe got food or something.
Let me San Diego.
There's the beach 5 minutes away.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, was really like a solidifying moment in our friendship of having a fellow black person, a fellow black woman to talk to and run it with about the millennial lifestyle, what is happening in our lives, and also just like our experiences with what the different things that we do, but also living in San Diego and our experiences. So yeah.
That's definitely for sure. Yeah.
That's so important too. Because you all got from the first episode, these two women being very different, so have this connection. I just think that friendships like this, I mean, they exist. We know this already. But I just love learning again and again that, you can vibe with people and grow with people who come from different experiences than you have, And, I think it's a beautiful friendship that you all have developed. And I'm so happy to be here in the midst of this trio friendship.
Yeah.
I like that.
Now,
voice.
what about you and I? We lost touch for a few years.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Since Beyonce concert, it had been almost 2 years.
No, we would see whenever you would come to visit. It would be in passing.
It would be in passing.
That's
very true. That's very true.
We didn't know, but we happened to be at the same Chance concert.
Yes.
And I didn't know until I came home until later, and you were in, he was chilling on the couch.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, shit. So everything was in passing until I ran into you, Jamal, randomly. I was in North Park. I forget why I was there originally.
Were you getting off of work and ended up at home or something?
No, I totally forgot why I was there originally, but I do know that the beauty supply store that I usually go
every
to,
black person in San Diego travels to get.
The best one.
Listen, y'all. It's called the Beauty Supply.
The Beauty Supply.
And if you are a person of color, you know that depending on where you are in this country of America, they might not have your hair products there. But in North Park, there's a beauty supply store called the Beauty Supply.
The Beauty Supply warehouse.
Every warehouse in every hood in America, no matter where you are, know that when the name of the beauty supply is called the Beauty Supply Warehouse,
that's it.
You gonna get your jojoba oil,
right?
Your coconut oil,
your
new wrap. Yes. You're gonna have the products for you, every.
And listen, every time I go to North Park, I go there just because I know I'm gonna need something eventually.
Absolutely.
Every time I go, so I'm like, so I happen to go inside, and then I come out, and I think I was walking to the bus stop or something, and then long and behold, Lania and Jamal damn near walking hand in hand.
You are the co-star of this podcast in this trio.
Some way, somehow,
you are.
This connection. Lania and Beyonce are the reason why we're here today.
She's gonna love that because it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
And why was I here?
You were at the festival.
I had the festival. So I was here for Film Out San Diego Festival. I did this film called The Quiet Room, which is this queer horror film about mental illness that I lead in. Shout out to Sam Wyman, the writer and director of that. And so we were screening here in San Diego for that film. So that's why I happened to be in town.
Yeah.
And we were leaving some opening night things. We ran into you on the street like, yo, Brittany, you want to come
my oils
tonight?
in my hand.
Yo, all your oils in your hand, her backpack on. We were like, yo, we're about to go to this festival. It's opening night. This film, whatever, you want to come with us? And so Brittany was like, yeah, I'll go. We went to go watch the opening night film. I was telling her that my film was screening the next day. The next day, she came back with a friend and saw the screening of The Quiet Room, which, you know, was a really, really amazing festival.
It was awesome.
The Quiet Room won Best Short Film, and I won Best Emerging Artist, something other. Shout out to Film Out San Diego. Thank you for the awards and the recognition. They're a beautiful festival, so you all should look it up and be a part of it, because they're wonderful supporters of art, diverse art, and it was so beautiful to be part of it. But that's how we reconnected, randomly walking down the street in North Park, San Diego.
In North Park, San Diego.
Thank you for your support. Thank you for coming out to support The Quiet Room.
Well, I didn't have a choice. I mean, you're dope. Why would I not support you?
That's a little shameless plug there.
I know,
right? Keep your eyes out.
but yeah, I was actually very excited to be there. I love the film, actually, and I think the film is very necessary.
Amen. Praise God. Won't he do?
It was honestly, it was really, really good. I loved it. But we really connected though after that same night I ran into you, after we had run over to what
bar was that?
Some bar. Let's not give them that, but
I gotta pay for that.
No plug.
We went to some bar down the street, and yeah, it was you, Linnea, and I. We just really start just talking more about similar experiences that we had, and I think because of, no shade to Film Out, but because of that space that we were in, which is majority white, gay males, I think that's what kind of sparked a conversation between you and I, and it kind of just, emerged from there, because I'm not sure if it was either you or I who kind of brought that up and was like, you know, it's not that many people of color here. It's a beautiful thing that they're doing, but it wasn't that many people in the room. And then our conversations kind of sparked from there, and we really connected on being Black in majority white spaces and what that feels like, what that looks like, how dismissive that can seem sometimes, and without knowing how sometimes folks can really make us feel, inferior.
Yeah.
If we allow them to. But
which is why I think, sorry to cut you off, but also is why I think the Quiet Room is so important for film right now, especially in the horror genre, and then across all genres, is because me having the privilege to lead in that film as a Black man whose character Michael happens to be gay was a huge thing, and I think that's why we've been so successful in the festival circuit. And I also say this in the interview I had with Film Out too, or somewhere else, I forget, but my director Sam Wyman, who also wrote this film, is a white man, and he always saw Michael, although the story of Michael is very close to his personal story in life, as a Black man.
Wow.
And I always say this when I have interviews about The Quiet Room. I think it's so important and so beautiful, and I talk about it because oftentimes when we write film, when we write art, we create art, we only see people who look like us within our stories. And Sam Wyman always saw a guy like me in the midst of his story.
Wow.
And I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And so it's interesting, being there. I think that's why The Quiet Room is so important, and that's why I'm so happy when I get into those spaces. As a Black man, I have my dashiki on and everything. I was like,
you
were.
You know what I mean?
You were. I was like, yo, this is important, and I want people to know, because within all of these, labels and categories and experiences and identities, we still forget about Black and brown people.
We do.
You know what I mean? We still forget about Black and brown people. We always talk about LGBTQ, feminism, but they're still talking about white beings having these rights and having this access and having these things. Right. We're still always, every time I'm in LA or even in San Diego and I'm going out to one of these bars out there or anything like that, I'm like, I don't see my face.
No, I don't see
I don't see my face.
Yeah.
So, that was really cool.
But, and you know what? And that's exactly the reason why I I came up with Living Millennial. What I want to do is I want to show diversity within the Black community, and I want to show diversity within the Black millennial community, because I think it really seems, at least from my perspective, it really seems like we are the first generation of Black people to really accept just about any and everybody, right? Like, or at least we're starting to at least think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, labels are. It depends on who you talk to. Labels can be important and they cannot be important. But, certain labels are really starting to be amplified now. And I think our generation has a lot to do with that. So, like, you talked about identifying, or you actually talked about the LGBTQ community. Let me correct myself, LGBTQAI community.
Yes.
Is that all the letters today?
Listen.
I
It's a lot of letters, y'all. Forgive us if we're wrong, but please, hit us up in the inbox if we're missing anything. Like,
yeah.
Let us know. It's a lot of letters, okay?
Yeah, let me know
if
I'm missing anything, because
really
I'm just now getting privy to the AI and getting used to adding the AI to that, but even identifying within the LGBTQAI community, or identifying as a certain political party, just anything, right? Identifying as feminist, I think it's our generation that's starting to amplify those identities and starting to make it, make sure that it's important and make sure that we are addressing those with certain respect, and that's exactly what I want Living Millennial to do here. Is I want us to show just how diverse we really are, how intelligent we really are, how articulate we really are, how intelligent we are for sure. And I want to have a platform for us to be able to talk about our shared experiences, especially in majority white spaces or majority spaces where it's not majority Black folks, and how that can sometimes that can definitely make us aware of our double consciousness, right? Mm-hmm. W.E.B. Du Bois talks about that double consciousness. And I want to make sure that we have a space to talk about those things. Because one thing that I noticed as well is the connections that you and I have had are extremely important, but they don't happen all the time. Mm-hmm. And which is, I think, the reason why, at least on my part, the moment that I have those connections, I kind of cling on without being clingy. I kind of cling on to them, because the conversations that we have are so in depth, and I don't always get a chance to have those type of conversations all the time. And from my experience with other people, that's one thing that we may even end a conversation on, is the fact that we don't always have those conversations in general. Living Millennial is going to be exactly that, like a place where we can really listen to one another, think about how we are all honestly the same kind of different, if that makes sense, right? Like, just we can be able to relate to one another, learn each other's stories, learn about each other's differences, but at the end of the day, realize, like, we all just trying to get by. We are trying to dig ourselves out of the holes that other generations have created for us, if that makes any sense. And just stay connected and continue to be uplifted all the time. So, and I definitely appreciate you guys, and because of the connections that we have, that's exactly why I was like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast?
Yeah.
Like, I have an idea for something. Do you want to talk?
Yeah.
Let's give that shout out real quick. Brittany here, she's the creator of Living Millennial, and she reached out to Mandisa and myself, and if she had not done that, this would not have happened. And if we had not ran into each other just by chance and by fate on the street and telling that, this might not have ever happened. And so, like, I don't know, I like to give this shout out to, like, community, and, like, just for something for all of us to think about. Like, look at the people that are around you, and look at the conversation that you're having at your cafes and at your homes and things like that, and then look at how the people to the left and the right of you can be used to your community and what you believe in. Because Brittany believing in Mandisa and I, and taking the conversations, our interactions, and the way that we met into consideration years later, began the makings of this. And so I think that's a beautiful thing that you've done, reaching out to the two of us to do this based on our connections and random running-ins to one another, you know? And you never waste time. I don't think this is the time in life to waste time. Like, we have fun. Like, before we press record on this episode today, we were just, like, having fun, but like we were having fun talking about important things, like not wasting any time. And sometimes, in society, we're like, oh, I don't want to be thinking about this, and I was like, nah,
you don't have a
like
choice.
We're drinking wine, having important conversations, and like making use of our resources with one another. And so kudos to you, like even creating this and thinking, thank you for choosing me.
Well, thank you guys for saying yes.
Of course.
And for your connections, because I feel like every time we talk, like walking away, I'm still thinking about, the things that were said. I'm still like my wheels are always turning after a conversation with you guys. And I think that's awesome, especially as a creative person. I think that's super, super important. And then having an outlet to, to just let those things out, even if it's in conversation, I think is necessary. So I definitely appreciate you guys for being a part of this outlet. Because I was tired of talking to myself.
Absolutely. I'm also in that same boat. I mean, going back to being in a lot of predominantly white spaces. I work in theater, which is, especially as a stage manager, I'm usually always the only Black person on the team, which it gets old really fast.
Real quick.
And a lot of times, I mean, especially before, we've been talking and having phone conversations and emails and back and forth on social media. A lot of my outlet was me in my car, like driving to work, driving home, and reflecting on thoughts from the day, news from the day, my experiences throughout the day, and how me coming into contact with other people and how that affected me and my experiences. And it was just me in my own space, so this is lovely and dope. And I look forward to us growing as a podcast, and I'm super interested to hear thoughts from our listeners on what their experiences are. And just going back to Jamal, what you were saying about, whoever is listening, to think about how your interactions with your friends or colleagues, family, and being mindful of those conversations and how you go about your day and your interactions. And I also want to circle back to all of our letters, LGBTQI. What can you say, for those who don't know what the A and the I are?
So the I is for intersex, and the A I thought was for ally, but it's for asexual.
Asexual. Yes. And just so y'all know, we look things up.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, me and Brittany, we've talked about this today. Like, sometimes you have to be willing to say, like, hey, I actually don't know, and then look it up. Because, as we grow as a society, we are growing with identity and realizing how complex all of our identities are. And so sometimes you have to act like you don't act like you know when you don't.
Yeah.
Google is your friend, and then look at like 3 more sources to cross-check.
Right, that part. And for those of you who do not know what intersex or asexual is, we're actually going to do exactly what Jamal is telling you to do, and you're going to look up the definition to intersex and asexual. I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Boom.
Hey.
Pop quiz.
Hey. Awesome. So that's Living Millennial. How we met.
Living Millennial, how we met, how these connections came about, and just how motherfucking dope y'all are. Like,
you're dope.
That's really what this purpose was, to explain how.
And y'all are dope. All right.
Yeah. And speaking of dope, we're also taking donations. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was like, I'm not sure.
But if you want to, though, donations would be great. Awesome.
Dope. All right, you guys. So be sure to tell us what you think of the show. Hit us up on Instagram at Living Millennial PC. We now have a Facebook. It's called Living Millennial Podcast. Let us know what you guys think. Send messages, positive words, positive energy, or if there's things you do not like, let us know that as well. We're open to it all.
And let us know what you want us to talk about. Like if there's any subjects or questions or ideas you want us to explore here with you all, let us know. Hit us up in the inbox, the DM. That's what they call them these days.
Yeah,
the kids
going
call
down in the DM.
Yes.
And send dirty pictures.
Don't send no
Only
dirty
to Brittany.
Wow.
Send dirty pictures to Hey Queen. I'm just look 4 Y's, 2 N's.
I like to filter the dirty pictures. I want to make sure I want to see what's dirty about, you know.
That's true.
We love everybody.
Yeah, because it could be. Look, we all have different definitions of dirty now. Okay.
This is true.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, but thank you all for listening. Tune in to the next episode. We'll catch you all then.
Peace. All right, friends. That's our show. Tune in next time.
Living Millennial.
Hey, more to come.
More to come.
We are living millennials. Oh, ba 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 ba.
Be sure to subscribe to our show, follow us on IG, and tell us what you think.